A few months ago, I got a message from this guy, David. He had a slab of live edge wood that he was trying to get rid of. He was gonna use it to build a desk, but then figured out he didn't have the right tools. And not someone to ever turn down free wood, I said, of course, give me the slab. This is a cool piece, but it definitely needs some TLC. As you can see, there are a bunch of bug holes on the top, and then in the bottom, there is this massive rotted out section. Now, I think we can salvage this thing and use it to make something really cool. But first things first, we gotta flatten it. Check that out. Ooh, that curly grain right there is wild. That is beautiful. So while I was flattening this thing, I thought of something. David said that he thinks the wood is kiln dried, but he's not sure. I picked up a moisture meter so I can find out if this thing is dry for real. I'm a little nervous though, because if it's not dry, we pretty much can't do anything with it. We have to leave it for a year to dry. And it's a non-invasive meter, so we can just put it directly against. What does it say? 6.8%. So wood must be kiln or air dried to a moisture level of 19%. But wood that is intended for indoor use, that is wood intended to be used in woodworking, must have a moisture content level that is less than half amount at only 9%. So that's great. I mean, 8% is below that, so I think we're good to continue the project. This slab has a really nice live edge, and I want to preserve that on the final piece. Now, this edge is really nice, but this one on the bottom, not so much. And then we have these straight cutoff ends, which I don't really like. So there's some definite cleaning up we need to do on the edge. And for that, it's power carving time. Power carving makes a ton of dust, and since my angle grinder is cordless, we're just gonna do it outside. A bit of power carving made the edges so much better. I cleaned up this long chipped edge, and I did a full-on faux live edge on the two straight cut sections. I spent some time cleaning out all the bug holes, which was surprisingly difficult. There was this really tightly packed sawdust in those, and I think we are ready to start stabilizing this big rotted out area. I'm gonna be using Total Boat Penetrating Epoxy. This is a low viscosity formula that will seep into all the rotted out areas and bond them with the more mechanically sound wood. Total Boat is also the sponsor for this video, so check out the link in the description for a discount. I want to completely coat the slab in penetrating epoxy, and I'd rather not ruin my pallet dining table, so I built a box. This was pretty simple to build just out of some 2x4s and scrap plywood. There is a 100% chance that the epoxy will flow into this box, so I coated it with tuck tape, but honestly, I'm not too confident on the waterproof properties of tape. As a little bit of insurance, I'm just gonna line the box with this plastic sheet that came with my mattress. So I'll just put down some painter's triangles. These are 3D printed, by the way. And I'm gonna start on the more severely rotted out side of the slab. So it's been 24 hours. The epoxy is not fully cured yet, but it is cured enough that we can flip it over and do the other side. Three days later, the penetrating epoxy is mostly cured, so I sealed the voids on one side with sheathing tape, flipped it over, and now we're gonna start filling the voids with Total Boat Thickset. This is a deep pour epoxy, very commonly used on river tables, so it should be perfect for our massive void in the middle. It's been 3 days since our last pour, which means the epoxy is now cured enough that we can flip over the slab, remove the tape. I feel like the heat gun might help here. This sheathing tape is very sticky. This is terrible. There was probably a better way to do this. I guess I could have glued the slab down to a sheet of melamine, but even that would have required a pretty substantial amount of cleanup. I don't know. If you think there is a better way to seal the bottom, flip it, and then epoxy the other side, let me know in the comments. Unfortunately, some of the epoxy ran over the tape, especially on the edges, so I wasn't able to take off those pieces, but if everything goes according to plan, it shouldn't really matter. Now that we filled that giant void, the epoxy work on this side will be mostly to fill all the bug holes. Since a lot of them are really small, it doesn't really make sense to use the very viscous thickset, so I'm gonna do my first coat with the penetrating epoxy. It should flow into all of the bug holes a lot easier. So 2 coats of penetrating epoxy almost filled up all the bug holes. I think 1 more coat is gonna do that, but before we do that, I wanna fix a problem. When we poured the thickset on the other side, some big bubbles got trapped in the epoxy. I couldn't even see these while we were pouring the epoxy because they kind of got trapped under overhangs, but I think we can fix it. Awesome, you can't even see it anymore. It's been 5 days since our last coat of epoxy, which means it should be cured enough to flatten. Deja vu. Check that out. This looks so cool. So I salvaged these really nice runners from a few palettes that I'm using on another project. And because these are so nice, I want to use them to make the legs for the table. Now I'm not going to count the time I used to get the pallets and take them apart since that's on another project, but taking the nails out of these was a lot of work. Hardwood pallets are usually held together with twisted nails, and you can only access them from one side on the runners. So it was about 30 minutes of pulling out nails, 15 minutes of planing, and then another 15 minutes to get one straight edge on all 4 runners with the track saw. I designed the legs in Fusion 360 and actually printed out paper templates, which is gonna save so much time compared to manually marking out all the angles on the wood. The benefit of a template is I could also be sure that I could get my leg pieces out of the runners since they have these scallops cut out of them. All right, 4 legs, let's get to it. So remember these tape remnants on the edge? These would take forever to remove with sanding alone, but I think we can make quick work of these areas with some power carving. I gotta be careful though, because this thing is aggressive and I don't wanna destroy my edges. Now it's time for everyone's favorite part of woodworking. So while I was sanding this, I noticed a problem. So remember those bubbles? Well, when we did the flattening and we took off some thickness, we actually uncovered a couple more. This is probably the biggest one. Then we have some little ones over here. There's another one. But luckily, these are small enough that we should be able to fill them in with CA glue. Now, before you panic, just know this is a pretty common technique for filling in small divots on tabletops. And once we sand it, you shouldn't even be able to tell the difference between that and the epoxy. Spray a bit of activator to speed up the curing. Surprise, I shaved. So for the leg placement, I want to lean into the asymmetry of this slab. One right there, maybe one right there. Because this end sort of comes out really far, that leg will probably be a lot more forward. I want them sort of angled out slightly. Ooh, yeah, that's good. I like it. So I'll just trace the outlines. So if you're like me and you don't have a drill press, these drill blocks make it really easy to drill a vertical hole. Boom, right down the middle. I'll have a link for this in the description, as well as links for all the other tools I used in this project. And to get my corresponding holes on the bottom of the slab, I'm just gonna temporarily attach them with CA glue. Just a few dots, some activator on the bottom. Boom, and we have the holes for our threaded inserts. Before doing the final sanding with 320 grit, I want to add my brand to the bottom of the slab. 3, 2, 1. Woo! There we go. So I got this sanded up to 320 grit and we are finally ready to apply finish. I'm gonna be using Rubio Monocoat Oil Plus 2C. When you use this stuff, it's very important to remove all the dust, so I vacuumed it off, wiped it with a microfiber cloth, and then since there are so many nooks and crannies in the edges, I actually sprayed it with computer cleaner. Let's finish this thing. So this morning, I put the legs on the table and I decided to give it away. Now, my original plan was to sell this table, so why am I doing this? Well, honestly, when I put on the legs, the table felt a little wobbly. And I tightened them down. I also added some non-skid feet, and it was a lot better. Like, at this point, it might be totally fine. Like, it supports my weight. It's not bending. Like, this thing is nice and strong, but it's just this way. Because I think of how the legs are oriented, it's a little wobbly. And I'm even noticing now that it's not, I don't think it's any more wobbly than like a store-bought coffee table. But the moment I noticed that defect, which I'm realizing now it's probably fine, I started second guessing myself. And I thought, like, I don't feel comfortable asking money for this. And even though it's fixed now, the thought of giving it away entered my head, and I really liked that idea. This isn't me devaluing my work. I totally recognize that this table has value. Someone might buy it for a couple $1,000s, and I'm still gonna do a full cost breakdown at the end of the video. But the idea of giving it away really excites me. It feels like this very fun, nice thing to do, so I'm gonna do it. Now, I do not want to deal with shipping this thing, and since I'm giving it away, I would love to actually give it to the person who wins it. So in the post, I said that anyone within reasonable driving distance from me, if they want to win the table, send me a message on Instagram, and in a couple days, I'll pick a winner. I'm excited. This is so fun. I got about 100 messages from people who wanted to win the table, and they're all in the Greater Toronto area. This is awesome. But there can only be one winner. Let's go deliver this thing.
You've arrived at your destination.
Hi, Areva. Arba. Sorry.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Here to use.
So nice.
Yeah, I think it will be perfect here.
Perfect.
I read that the ideal coffee table height is the same height as the couch, and I think we're spot on.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, that's amazing. I love it.
All right, I have a confession to make though.
Sure.
So the initial reason I offered it for free, I was originally going to sell it.
Yeah.
But I put the legs on and I was worried that it was a little too wobbly.
Okay.
So I want you to test it out and tell me if you think it's too wobbly, because I'm like...
No.
No?
No. I'm like, there's just two adults living here. Nobody's going to sit on it.
Okay.
Like, it's not going to be like anything crazy going on. Like, we're like pretty like chill.
And I walked on it and I like sat on it, so.
I love the look of it because like you can like look at it and see so many different things.
Yeah. This curly grain right here, I really like.
And what kind of wood is it?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm sure people in the comments will make some guesses. Being in Canada, there's probably a good likelihood that it's maple. Okay. It also has this, the curly grain is something that happens in maple, and I would guess that like this is the most uniform grain, and to me that looks kind of like maple, but I don't know.
It's just something that...
Oh, thank you so much.
You can read it if you want.
Oh, this is so nice. Ooh. Sorry about that, I got a new lens. If you're still watching, you probably want to know how much all that epoxy costs. So, as promised, let's dive into the cost breakdown. We use 2.05 liters of total boat penetrating epoxy, that's $93.30. 2.5 liters of thick set, that's $110.56. 8 threaded inserts, about $4. 8 mounting screws, $5. The Rubio Monocoat is one of the more expensive parts. We used a third of a can, which is $38.33. Various consumables like sandpaper, shop towels, things like that, I'll estimate that's about $7. And then we drove about 100 kilometers to deliver the table. Now, according to the Canadian tax system, we can expend 68 cents per kilometer. That's $66.64 for the delivery expense. So for all of our materials, that's $324.83 Canadian or $238.85 US. Now, on top of the building steps, it took about 30 minutes to do all the marketing and an hour for the delivery. That brings our total time to 18 hours and 5 minutes, which is scarily close to the time we spent on the hexagon table. I think that one was 18 hours and 30 minutes. And I was actually thinking of pricing this one the same as the hexagon table, $2,000 Canadian or about $1,500 US. That gives us an hourly rate of $92.64 Canadian or $68.11 US. But of course, we gave it away, so we made nothing. But I'm so happy we did. Like, I got so many really nice messages, types of messages that I've never received before. People had an excuse to tell me why they like my videos and the impact that they make on them. And it made me feel so grateful for this audience and so happy that I'm creating a positive impact on so many people. So to everyone who sent me those messages, thank you. Usually at the end of my videos, I say that if you want to see what I'm up to behind the scenes, you can gain exclusive access to the behind the scenes Instagram page by supporting this channel on Patreon. But I'm very excited to announce that I recently added another Patreon benefit. We now have a Discord. So if you also want to join a Discord community with me and all the other patrons, head on over to patreon.com/MorleyKurt. And I want to take these glasses off. I'm getting LASIK soon. These borrowed glasses, the days of these is numbered. I want to give a special shout out to my top supporter on Patreon, my mom, Kathy Kurt. Thanks, Mom. I love you.